On this episode, practice is ugly. Hey everybody, this is the Quarter Show, and today we are talking about practice. Practice makes perfect, as we all know, but practice is ugly. And you look at the Olympics that just passed, and I didn't watch a ton of it, but I find people so often when you see successful people and the comments and the quotes, and you see on Instagram, and you see on LinkedIn, and you see certain things. I think a lot of people have an attraction to successful people, right, and affluence. And when they look at it, they kind of see where they're at. They see what they see, right? They see the nice things or the accolades that go along with it. They see all those different things, and they say, "I want that." I just want. That's what I want, right? But the thing they don't see is the scrapes and you see the professional skateboarder at the tournament who does amazing work, but you don't see the bruises and the scrapes and the cuts and the broken arm and all the ugliness that goes into it, and the waking up at 6 a.m. and practicing, doing over and over and over and over again, and just working like grueling work to get there. And I think that that's not sexy. Right? That's not sexy, and that's not what people want to look at. They don't want to look at, oh my God, what it takes to go there, what I have to do. And so they kind of glorify, and they just look at, there's Richard Branson, or there's this person, there's that person. And look, those people deserve the spotlight, deserve the credit. But you don't see all the heartache and all the stuff that happened and all the practice and the work that went into that. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he talks about the 10,000 hours. And he talks about people like in the NHL and the Beatles and different things like this. And he talks about just the sheer work, guys like Bill Gates and Bill Gross, and some incredible people that have accomplished huge things. Bill Gross with, I believe, Sun Microsystems. But the things that he attained, or they attained, to get where they are, these absolute greats, and the hours that had to go into it, and what they had to do. There's a great clip rolling around YouTube. You can pull it up. It's on Michael Phelps, and it's by Under Armour, and it says something like, it's something like what happens in the dark, or what happens in the dark, and it shows his just intense levels of training to get to what we see, which is him at the Olympics just dominating. And I think that it's not talked about enough in terms of practice, right? Practice leads to competence, and you really have to look at it from your standpoint, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're in sales. It's like, what is your practice game? For me, I played competitive hockey when I was growing up, and that meant for me that we typically would practice every morning at 5 a.m. And obviously getting up and doing that and just having some grueling practice, and you do it every single day, and then on the weekends you have either a tournament or you have hockey games or whatever, and it's just like, it's non-stop. My coach used to say, you only play as good as your last practice. Right? And I think that a lot of people get into the habit of just playing. You just show up at the game, but you're not putting in the work to practice. And you have to look at it from the standpoint, if you're trying to master sales, or you're trying to master being an entrepreneur, or business in any capacity, marketing or whatever, the question is, when it's not game day, when you're not just playing the game, what are you doing to practice? What is the grueling work you're putting in? And you look at any top sales rep, for example, like Ben or some other people that work here, and it's like, you see what you see now, but you don't see what all the stuff it took to get there. And it's the same thing with being an entrepreneur. It's like when you start a company, once you attain success and you get the accolades and you get the awards, it's cool, and people want to write an article, or you want to be interviewed, or you want this or that, but they don't see like the heartache and everything that went into getting to where you are, and the scrapes and the practice and the work to get there, so I think one of the things you need to be looking at, like if you want to be great and you want to really dominate or master what you're doing, you really have to look at like, what is your practice game? right?
I've definitely wanted to win the lottery. Like
Yeah.
that's definitely something that in my past I've been like, if only I could win the lottery.
Speaking of practice,
You know? And it's like, you know, and I tell you what, today I would not turn down a winning lottery ticket. But that attitude, that viewpoint of like, you know, because it kind of, for me and probably for others, it kind of carries into viewing someone successful and going, I would love to be a baller like that person. I would love to do, oh man, that'd be so cool. And so you start to think with that, and you start to, but the separation between where a person is and where you are starts to itch at you a little bit. But the thing that it is for me is if you can wrap your wits around believing in yourself and having faith that you're gonna do it as a first step prior to your action, and then go ahead and like never lose that viewpoint of like you're gonna make it no matter what comes up. I mean, this is all stuff we've heard about in self-help books, so none of this is a big, gigantic surprise.
No, but
the thing is,
it's being repeated.
It has to be really understood, especially on this point when you look at successful people. You know, I was just at a conference this last weekend, and I saw a successful guy there, and I just want what he has. And I even said that in a little question and answer thing. I'm like, I want what Sean has, right? Ha ha ha! We all laughed because every single person in that room wanted what Sean has. But I asked him about what he did to get there afterwards, and it was unreal, the amount of heartache, the amount of staff this fellow went through, the amount of like the sleepless nights that he went through and still goes through on his road to his mission and his success. It's unbelievable. It's still ugly, even though he's super successful now.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But he's doing it.
He's doing it.
But he's doing it.
Yeah, he's doing it, and he doesn't doubt him. Like, you know, I mean, I'm sure we all doubt ourselves, but he's like, this is happening, and he's going forward with it anyway, and he believes in himself as a first and primary thing, and so he just gets dirty. He gets dirty into new areas all the time, and he gets dirty, and then eventually, with enough hard work and enough failures and successes and figuring it out. So it's like, if you're, you know, my only thought on it is, you know, yeah, I want to be like Sean, and I want to be like Michael Jordan, and I want to be those ways. I now have enough experience in the real world to know that to get there, it's practice, it's nonstop. I mean, yeah, there were stretches I talk every once in a while where I worked 60 hours a week with Richter. That's not that much. You can work 80 hours a week.
But keep in mind the work in per week. You say, well, I work so many hours per week, but keep in mind. And yeah, I mean, I obviously have to quantify the work, but I think there's a difference between game day and there's a difference between practice, right? And I think that a lot of people are playing, right? Like you're playing. So like Michael Jordan played basketball, but the part you didn't see was not when he was on TV, right? The part you didn't see was when he woke up at 4 a.m. and went to the court and was just practicing hitting baskets.
Or he was shooting well after dark.
Doing sprint drills, right?
Yeah.
Doing sprint wind drills and stuff like this and doing these different things, or doing the weight trainer, hitting the gym and strengthening the arms and strengthening the legs. And like, that's the thing I'm talking about, you know, and you know, it's what you don't see, like what your coworkers don't necessarily see when you're not there. It's like, yeah, you're working while you're working, right? But what are you doing when you're practicing? Like, what does your practice game look like? Maybe that means you have a set list of you know, 7, 8, 10, 15 top objections that come up. If you're in sales, what are the top objections? And are you drilling those, you know, at night or in the morning or before work, before the workday starts? Like, have you mapped out your like sales pitch, your script or your pattern? And do you have those drills completely nailed down? And what sales books are you reading? Are you listening to an audiobook while you go for a run after work? You listen to an audiobook that makes you better, and then before you go to bed, are you reading another book to get better at your game? What kind of, you know, what does practice mean for you? And I think that when you look at a Michael Phelps or whatever, like we see him swim in a tournament or in a championship or whatever.
Put that gold around his neck.
Right, we see that, but it's way more than that. Like you see the guy weightlifting in the gym and he's got an oxygen tent that wraps around him in his bed so he can hack his breathing and breathe, learn how to take in less oxygen, and that means he can be underwater more than the other guy.
Unbelievable.
So stuff like that, you start looking and you go, well, what is your practice game? Like what Jordan had to do to get to where he was insane practice, right? An insane practice game. And I think too many people fall into the default of like just hustle, work. It's like, yeah, true, right? Working is part of the practice, like game day, but what else are you doing to practice and get more competent at what you're doing? Whether it's like what Ben did and going to a conference and learning more about that, or studying books, or right? Writing down the different drills and like drilling those cold. Like if you're in sales, for example, you should know your top 10 objections cold.
Yeah.
You should know 3 to 4 handles for the top 10 objections that come up, and you should know them cold. And if you don't, you're not practicing, right? You should be so ready that you can't wait for them to say them, because you cannot wait to just go bang.
Good, that one's out of the road.
You know, and to me that comes from practice. And amazingly, a lot of people don't. Even just reading. Like, are you reading a sales book right now? Think about it. Are you reading a sales book right now, or some entrepreneur book, or some business book, or something that's super, super relevant to what you're doing? You know?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? What does your practice schedule look like? You know, great musicians, they have practice, and then they go on stage, or they go on tour, or they go whatever. But great ones, like Malcolm Gladwell points out in Outliers with the Beatles, for example, they practice. And you don't see that because it's ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the screw-ups are, and that's why it sounds terrible, and they practice new songs, and they do different things, and practice is ugly. It's supposed to be ugly.
Yeah, and if you don't do it, I mean, if you take a musician like my sister, she's not a professional musician, but she's good, right? And so, but she doesn't play for a few months, then she starts playing and her fingers hurt so bad from pressing on those strings. So, like just like anything, if you don't continue to practice, if you don't continue doing it, like, yeah, you'll get rusty, you'll get off your game, you get these different things. To be one of the greats where there's no one else and it's just you, then you have to practice all the time. It's head game all the time.
It's head game and practice all the time, because otherwise you stay in the rut. Like, you just work, you go to work, you show up at work, and you do your work stuff, and you get into this routine rut of like you're just doing the work. You're just showing up for game day, but you never show up for practice.
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't have a practice schedule, you don't have a practice regimen, you just show up for game day. And the truth is, those people don't make it. The truth is, the greats that really shine on game day, they are also working when it's not game day, and they're practicing all the time.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you'd be like, well, how did so and so do it? There's another sales rep here who's very, very good. And there was a stretch of time where I'm like, how is he doing that? And so I spent a weekend with him. And he was just doing the normal things. He wasn't doing anything abnormal at all. He was having normal conversations, but he was on top of his game. He was well drilled. He knew what to say and when. He knew how to handle his objections. He had a good viewpoint about it, and he worked a lot.
He binge studied.
Yeah, he studied a ton.
He binge studied. He studied voraciously. There was a point where he studied,
a whole bunch of books.
Just back to back audiobooks, and book, like, it's like just binge studying. And the thing is, again, the team is saying, well, how are you doing that? But you didn't see that part. Right? You didn't see him up until midnight or whatever, like binge studying.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Even for me, when we first started Richter, it was like, studying or practicing or writing out other things, or creating the drills, or writing out the ideal or perfect sales script, and really hacking that, and then practicing and working that pattern or whatever.
Yeah, he would get with Robert. I remember this, he'd get with you and went over specific objections that he was having a hard time with, and he really drilled them down to the point where he had them.
Yeah, and then when it's outside of the game day, your day's over, when we had a big week, we would look at it and dissect that week and say, what happened here specifically? And we'd break it down, bullet point it out, so we could emulate it and repeat it, make it a repeatable model, and really look at it. That's part of the practice. You start looking, you go, what is working, what isn't working, and really drill it down to the work. A lot of people just check out. Okay, cool.
Because here's what they do.
Good game, guys. See ya.
You have a great week, and you're like, I need a margarita.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah.
But not this crew, right? Not a successful crew.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's go get a beer. Yeah. Oh, whatever. And then next week, and then you go crash. It's like, we don't do that.
Mm-mm.
We don't do that. We dissect the week.
Yeah.
We analyze the week and then figure out what we need to do. A lot of people just clock out.
Yeah.
Okay, see ya. It's like, that's not good enough.
Yeah, even if you're not working for the weekend, even if you are really hustling, you have to put in that extra bit. You have to put in the behind the scenes. The practice behind the scenes is what's really going to elevate you.
That's right. So the thing to look at a sports team, or look at a successful athlete, or look at a successful musician, or a business professional in any capacity, and a successful coder, or a successful designer. It's like, look at the practice behind. Look at what you don't see. Look at what's behind what you are currently seeing, and you will find that these people practice at an incredible level or have practiced at an incredible level. And you see what people glorify now. You see what the people want now. They go, I want that.
Super unglamorous, and it actually, because you have to dedicate your life to something.
And that person knows it's unglamorous, and
Yeah.
they know, they're like, oh yeah, thanks.
The
Okay.
coder one especially.
Yeah.
Those guys, some of those guys,
Yeah.
they're really successful. Like they like
Falling asleep on the keyboard.
Oh my
and
God!
just
They're not home playing their video games.
No.
They're home doing their coding,
hacking, coding,
learning, reading, watching.
So there's the work ethic. There's the doing the work while you're working and hustling hard and the hustle. But there's also like the practice to make the hustle easier.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're working, they're like, how do you hack making the hustle or making the work much easier? And I believe wholeheartedly that comes from incredible work ethic on your practice.
Yeah, it was like there's this one last comment. I know we're wrapping up, but there was this. There's a baseball player, Barry Bonds, and yeah, he may have cheated with steroids, whatever. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Doesn't matter.
That's
The point is, in the off season, he took this other friend of his, Gary Sheffield, and this is near the end of Gary's career when Gary was trying to boost his numbers to maybe be in the Hall of Fame, and he took him out and he showed him what he did in the off season. And Gary, who was a very successful baseball player, was blown away because Barry Bonds has produced numbers that no one else has produced in the history of this game. And Gary was like, oh my God, because Barry's sitting there 38 years old running wind sprints up the stairs of a stadium, and on the field with a parachute behind him. He's 38, 39 years old doing this stuff. And Gary's like, what in God's name are you doing? The practice this guy did in the off season was unreal.
The greats are like that, by the way. The greats are always blown away by the practice. I saw this video. You got to watch this video. Pull it up on YouTube. Pull up this Under Armour video of this Michael Phelps. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it. It's something like What Happens in the Dark or something like that. It will give you chills.
Yeah, we got to watch it.
It will give you chills because you're like, my God.
Yeah.
We
make fun. We see, Michael Phelps, he eats 7 turkeys a day, or we make fun of the food, or we laugh at it, or whatever. We don't make fun. We laugh at, that's so funny. He has to eat so much food. I can't imagine that's fun. I can't imagine that's fun eating the amount of calories and food he eats. We think about it as fun because everybody likes a pizza. No, this guy's doing it because his body is going through such dramatic effect.
It's intense what he's it's intense. I'm telling you. So it's like and you can totally, by the way, it totally transitions over to like sales and entrepreneurship and business. Like it totally does. You look at it and you go like, how does it relate to me? What is practice? What do I need to do? Maybe you need to go binge like 15, 20 books.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to get on Quora and find out the best answers. Maybe you need to go get a mentor, somebody who really knows how to freaking do this, and you need to shadow them and ghost and really understand what they're doing. Maybe you need to watch shows like this and get your hours in and build out a schedule on this. Then you need to write out the different drills of what you need to do and make sure you have those cold. Then you need to write out the successful pattern for what that is. Drill that until that's cold, right? And then you need to go and like work, of course, and practice and tweak and write down and then map out like what is a successful selling day? What is a successful selling week? What's working, what's not, and really map that out. But you need to isolate what does practice mean for you, what makes you better and what contributes to you better when it's game day. And game day, I mean like Monday through Friday. What is your work week like? When it's game day and you go on the field, you need to play well, which comes from great practice. And you have to look at it. Practice and game day are not the same, right? Practice is outside of game day. So you need to look at it and go, so what am I doing on my practice, right? The after hours, what am I doing? And you can work around the clock, but that can be a rut as well, where you just work, and you stay in that same thing. So you need to isolate them and really look at it and go, well, when am I practicing? When am I working? It's important. Hope that helps. If you like it, hit the like button on the show. Make sure you subscribe, and would love to see you share it as well on social media and things like that. Okay? Thanks.